Hello everyone, this is day 26 of Polity Daily Drill. Let's begin. First question. On premature dissolution of a panchayat, which means dissolution before its end of tenure. So I hope you are aware that the tenure of panchayats is 5 years. So if at any point of time before the end of 5 years, the panchayat gets dissolved, then which of the following statements about the newly elected panchayat is or are definitely incorrect? So, just to clarify, whenever a panchayat is dissolved before 5 years, you'll have to conduct elections for the concerned panchayat, and the newly elected panchayat will continue only for the remainder period. It won't get a full 5-year term. For example, if you have a panchayat serving a period from 2018 to 2023, and if by any chance, let's say in the year 2020, this particular panchayat gets dissolved. Now what happens? The newly elected panchayat will not get a full 5-year term till 2027 like you have for say Lok Sabha or the legislative assemblies. This newly elected panchayat will get a term only till 2023, the remainder period. Okay. Now, there is also one more possibility. And what is that? The possibility is that if the remainder period is less than 6 months, meaning if the elections or the tenure was supposed to end, let's say in May of 2023, and the panchayat gets dissolved in January of 2023, then less than 6 months are left for the end of tenure. Now, in this situation, there is no need to conduct elections for that particular panchayat. For maximum 6 months, the panchayat can, or the people there can live without an elected government. And then once the tenure of 5 years is over, then that particular area can also have its own panchayat along with the other areas in the state. So there are two possibilities. No fresh elections shall take place for the remainder term is also possible. And of course, it is possible that it will be reconstituted to serve the remainder period. So 2 and 3 are both possible depending on circumstances. Now what is not possible is the first one. It will be reconstituted to serve a full term of 5 years. This is not possible. Or the fourth one, the state legislative assembly shall decide the course of action. This is also not possible. In fact, it is clearly mentioned under Article 243 capital E about the duration of panchayat. So it is not one of those provisions where the state legislature may by law decide. It is clearly mentioned in the constitution. So 1 and 4 are definitely incorrect. Hence B is the right answer. Moving on to question number 2. Where a proclamation of emergency refers to what kind of emergency? It refers to national emergency. So, where a proclamation of emergency is in operation, the right to move to any court for the enforcement of fundamental rights, except of course Articles 20 and 21, could be suspended. Yes, it could be suspended. This is what is mentioned under Article 359 of the Indian Constitution. However, what is the procedure? Does it get suspended automatically? Of course not. This automatic suspension is applicable under Article 358 for Article 19 only, and only when the national emergency has been imposed on some external reasons, right? So A is wrong. B, only by an order made by the president. This is actually correct. Yes, if you want to restrict the right of people to move to court, then a presidential order is required under Article 359. Hence B is the answer. C and D have to be incorrect. C says only by a law made by Parliament. Incorrect. And D says only by an order made by a constitutional bench of the Supreme Court. Complete nonsense. So B is the right answer. Moving on to question number 3. How many of the following provisions have been explicitly mentioned in the Constitution as a ground for disqualification for being elected as a member of the Parliament? So you can find all these things mentioned under Article 102, Clause 1. Office of profit, yes, it is mentioned. It is mentioned under Article 102, Clause 1, Subclause A. Undischarged, insolvent, yes, that's also mentioned. Article 102, Clause 1, Subclause C. And the third one, punished for preaching and practicing social crimes such as untouchability, dowry, and sati. Now, these are not mentioned in the Constitution, but rather in RPA, the Representation of People's Act 1951. So 1 and 2 are correct. How many provisions? B. Only 2 provisions. Moving on to question number 4. Which one of the following options best reflects the chief purpose of adopting a democratic form of government in India? So, democratic form of government refers to a more responsible, a more accountable form of government. So, of course, we'll see the options first. All political parties in the country will be represented in the parliament. But this is not the chief purpose. It creates a stable government with the power to make quick decisions. Again, this is totally unrelated. C, to protect the sovereignty and integrity of the country. This can be done even without having a democratic government. So D has to be the answer and is the answer as well, to make the executive accountable for all its actions. The idea, the chief purpose of responsible government, accountable government, right? So D is the answer. Moving on to question number 5. The DPSPs, the Directive Principles of State Policy, are enshrined in Part 4 of the Indian Constitution. How many of the following statements about DPSPs is or are correct? They are fundamental in the governance of the country. So if you refer to Article 37 of the Indian Constitution, which is under Part 4, of course, you will find this exact statement about the importance of DPSPs. Yes, that's true that DPSPs are kind of non-justiciable rights, meaning they cannot be enforced by the courts. So second one is wrong. They are directly enforceable by courts is incorrect. However, these principles are fundamental in the governance of the country. So 1 is correct. 3, they serve as guidelines for the state to formulate policies is also correct. The 4th one, they are amendable by the parliament through a simple majority. Now this is wrong because modifying DPSPs requires a special majority. So 2 and 4 are wrong, 1 and 3 are right. How many of the following statements are correct? We know only 2 statements are correct. This brings us to an end of our discussion for today. Let's meet tomorrow. Till then, that's all for me. Jai Hind.